Hi, everyone. This is Chris from National Parents Organization, and today I'm here with Robert Garza again. We are here again. Last time he was here, we were talking about the time taken back policy down in Texas, and he has something new to share with us today: the three strikes policy. Robert, thanks so much for coming on again.
Thanks for having me.
So, Robert, since the last time we've talked, you have had quite the whirlwind media tour. You've been all over the place. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was amazing. Been on National Parents Organization, been on Dr. Phil. That was interesting. We interviewed with them for probably like 3 hours on their taping. And then they figured out how much advocacy I did because they just saw they found me in We the Parents documentary, and it's on YouTube. And so they reached out to me because of that. But found out how much advocacy I was doing and wanted to do another whole episode on just the advocacy. So that's good. That will be coming up. Um, gosh, a ton of things have been going on. Came out with a new policy or a new bill. Hopefully that will go through in this session. Um, yeah, just so many good things happening.
Well, that's awesome. Take me back to Dr. Phil. That must have been an incredible experience. What was it like being on the show, and did they try and mislead you at all? How was that?
No, at first they saw the egregiousness of the court case and they wanted to maybe have me and my ex on. And I was like, hey, you can ask her, but 43 false allegations, never convicted or arrested. I mean, I doubt she's going to come on. And sure enough, they just like, yeah, she's not going to do it. But because we had interviewed and I told them that I had to change the law in Texas to stop these allegations, and they thought it was an amazing idea, and they ran it by Dr. Phil, I guess, and he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so there was no games or anything. They were very straightforward. We met at some court that they rented out and or was supplied, and it was me and Rustin Wright and asked us questions for about 3 hours. And in that time, Lonnie Coombs, I think, was the interviewer. She was amazing. She used to be a district attorney in California, and now she works for Dr. Phil. And so she was very impressed with like the stuff that we had been doing to change laws and the advocacy, because she knew about all the laws, criminal, family court, stuff like that. So
So, I mean, you had to be nervous going on that show. Did you have a big lump in your throat, or once you got started, did it just all start to flow?
it all went away. You're kind of nervous because you're not knowing what you're going into, but really after all these hearings and testify in front of the Senate and the House, that was huge. And so now I really don't get nervous very much. Just go in there. I mean, these are all regular people. They're more important probably in your head than they are to themselves or real life, but they're just normal people.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, you certainly have become a rock star here for the advocacy world, and you've been all over the place and talked to lots of people, and it's really pretty impressive. Is it change your perspective on any of this stuff? The more people you talk to, or you feel better about it, or discouraged? What's your thoughts on the advocacy side?
Yeah, I think more advocacy is needed. There's a lot of people that are just starting out, and so they don't understand what's going on. So to catch them up to speed is very hard. But once you understand that it's a game, and once you're in it, you have to play by the rules. Of course, they change the rules, so just tell me what game I'm playing today.
Right.
But but because of the advocacy and the Dr. Phil show and everything, all the other interviews I've done, I found out that it's more of a global issue than just a US issue. And so I have people inviting me to Canada to come help them with their laws, Australia, uh, even oh my gosh, like it's crazy the amount of people that are asking me to come try and fix their laws, and I'm just a normal parent just like them.
I find that legislators really don't believe you that these things are happening. Do you get similar reactions from the people that you talk with?
Yes, they can't really believe it because they didn't go through it. And frankly, to be frank with you, I mean, I wouldn't believe that half of this stuff is going on if I hadn't went through it either. I'd be like, maybe somebody made a mistake, they're overlooking something. No. It is very bad. In fact, I don't know if you know this, they started inviting me to educate lawyers and judges at the CLE classes. I think we were on last time and I did one. Well, I just did another one in Austin. It had over 200 lawyers and judges. It was amazing. So they invited me to be one of the speakers in Austin at this continuing education class for lawyers and judges, 200 of them there. And Dr. William Barnett was there. And so I was one of the three speakers, but it was amazing. It was over parental alienation and the bill that I had passed that's now a Texas law. And so I got to talk to a lot of lawyers and judges. The sad part is I had a younger lawyer come up to me and he goes, a lot of what you said is true. Because I also not talked about I talked about my bill, but I also talked about the games that were played in court. He goes, I came out of law school and I was getting my butt kicked. And he goes, I'd stayed up all night, I prepped, I got everything just like it was. And I'd go in the courtroom and everything just fell apart. He goes, they were playing games that I have never even seen in law school. He was like, and so I learned what they did, which they didn't teach us in law school. And he goes, and the sad part is a lot of this isn't about law. It's what you can convince the judge is real or whatever else. And so he goes, it's nothing like what law school says it is. You go by the book, you do the right forms, you do this, you do that, and it's not that at all. And it made me think because when you get in there, all these lawyers and judges are kicking each other's butt with, what they can get by with. And so then they learn from each other, and it's just this huge mess in the end because where's the real law? Where's the real, where are they upholding the Constitution and everything else? They're not doing this. And that's the problem.
Yeah, you hit on the nail on the head there. With this young lawyer talking about, how it's not law that they're doing. I don't really know what a lot of family courts are doing. I know what I saw, didn't follow statutes, and it was just kind of the Wild West, and there was very little accountability for anybody, lawyers or judges or anything like that. So I would be curious, in the CLEs that you taught, were the older judges or the lawyers and judges that are kind of mid-career, were they kind of phoning it in, or what was the reaction to your presence being there?
They were impressed with what I was able to get done. And I kind of I hadn't read the speech that I had given in front of the Senate since I did it, and I did it in front of it to kind of start my presentation. I choked up at the end because it's almost like it was weird. It put me back in the Senate when I was first doing it, PTSD, whatever it is. But I started choking up, and oh my gosh, I looked out, and all like a lot of these were ladies or whatever, and you could tell that it affected them. Like they could see how much pain that this was, and so they were very appreciative. I didn't have anyone. I mean, there was just tons of people saying thank you for coming, and they were giving me their business card saying that they have more CLE classes in this county or that county, and they want me to come speak at them.
Well, that's awesome, because I mean, normally to talk at those CLE classes, you have to be, a psychologist or a lawyer. You have to have some professional credits, and you're doing amazing work here, but you don't have a lawyer credential behind you. So I think it's amazing that you're able to come and talk to them, and that they're asking you to actually come and talk to other classes as well. So that's really, that's really something that's encouraging, I think. Now, whether or not they're going to take and put that into practice, I guess, is another question, right?
Yes. So it was pretty interesting because it was over parental alienation, and they had Ashish Joshi and Dr. William Barnett and me. And so and the crazy part is, so when I was listening to Dr. Barnett and this other, the other one was uh, parental alienation attorney, like super expert all over the nation. When I got up there, I started talking about, that they're amazing in what they observed and everything else. But I'm coming from a point at that I've experienced what they're talking about. And so they started paying attention really well because I was like, look, the effects, your temporary orders are most people's final orders. So if you're not getting those right, the ripple effect that you're making, um, just handing those out and not making a second guess in a 20 minute, trial or hearing, 20-minute hearing, it literally affects these people's lives and their children's lives. And I'm here to tell you that I've been in this for 15 years now, and all those temporary orders, restraining orders, protective orders, if a judge would have just thought a little bit longer, I probably wouldn't have been in the system so long. And you could tell it made them think about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, at least what I saw here in Kansas, was that they will make long term decisions without having proper evidence or going through even the proper procedures through the court, right? So they are like it's a great point that you're making, that they are making very lifelong decisions based on a he said she said kind of thing, and 10 or 15 minutes of people going back and forth at each other. It's really quite a shame.
They were, you could tell they thought about it. And I even told them, I was like, look, when you're given a protective order and a restraining order in any state, and all of you are from Texas, I was like, you're violating people's Fourth Amendment right for, Fifth Amendment right for due process and their 14th Amendment right for care, custody, and control. I was like, you can't do that. You're breaking, I mean, you're violating a constitutional amendment on doing that on a precaution. I was like, but since you are, and that's what happened to me because my judge didn't give me the time back. I had to change the law and it took the discretion away. And so when you return the child, you return the time. But I also did express to them how it returned all of the resources to those investigative agencies. And one person asked if I got my time back with the law. And I said, no. I was like, I didn't retro the bill because I didn't want to stop up the court system with everybody doing that.
Sure.
And they were like, whoa, that was like blown away to them that I didn't retro it.
Yeah, I think it's hard for some people to understand that a lot of us that get in advocacy work, it's not going to help our case at all, right? We're just trying to make things better for the future. And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to wrap their mind around.
Yeah, there was a couple of people were wanting to know. They said it on the Zoom. They're like, "What county did this to you?" And I was like, "Texas." I was like, "I'm not going to say what
Yeah,
county, what judge, what opposing counsel, because I was like, it's not about them. It's about the games that are being played, and this is why these meetings like we're having now is so important because so you understand that there are repercussions to families for your rulings. And hopefully this will make you think twice before you do another restraining order, protective order, emergency, or whatever else. And I even told him, I was like, look, if there's not already a history of abuse or a history of the cops or CPS going out, then more than likely, if this person's been married several years, you just got to use common sense. More than likely that now they filed for divorce, now they're a monster. You should have seen them. They're all like with their heads down, their pens writing. And I'm like, how is that not, how do you not know this?
yeah. To me, that's the question that begs to be asked. Right? The courts really have no incentive to not make people fight, right? Because when people fight, they get to bill hours, and they really everybody in the court system wins. It's everybody that's involved with the court system, the families that lose. And so there's really no incentive for them to keep the conflict down. I think we've seen that all over the country.
Well, that's the big problem. And I was telling somebody just today, I was like, they're like, well, let's just abolish family court. I was like, well, look at what family court makes. I was like, I spent 700,000 more or plus. My ex spent over 1 million trying to take the kids from me. And I spent 700,000 just being able to be in their lives. And now I have more than I had even before she even started this.
Mm-hmm.
So $1.7 million just on one family.
Yeah.
Now multiply that over hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, and the sad thing really is the families that can't afford the to fight in the family court system, right? So there's a lot of people that don't believe they can, they don't have the financial means, or they don't feel like they can win, so they don't even try. And these courts really, create some bad family situations just because of the difficulty of, getting something reasonable through the court.
So I was talking to them that, this is great that the presentation, and I respect, the two speakers that were there, but most people don't have the funds or the resources to have the parent facilitator, the therapist, the amicus, the guardian ad litem, the home studies, the psyche valves. If you run the gamut, because that was what they were doing, is that once you have a psyche valve, then you can diagnose this parental alienation and whatever else, and that causes, the kid to have a therapist, and then all the professionals talking to each other. Major money. No one can withstand that. That's like at the top 1%. What I'm trying to do with legislation is stop the behavior before it starts, like the time taken, time back bill with, stopping the false allegation before it gets there, before you get all these people involved into it. I'm trying to stop it at the root cause. They're trying to fix it at the top echelon part of where most people won't even get there before they run out of money.
Yeah. Do you know in Texas? I know in our local court system here in Kansas, the judges that get assigned to family court are often the junior judges because that's the sort of least desirable court. You've got, family court, criminal court, and then you've got civil court. And of course, family court's kind of the biggest circus. So people generally don't like to be judges there, I think. And what I've learned is that our most junior judges are put in at the family court level, and it kind of blows my mind that they would take, judges that don't have a lot of experience and kind of throw them into this wild party that is called family court.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that state, but here, a lot of the problems that we were having is that you have criminal judges coming into family court, which family law and criminal law are two different things. Because I've been in this 14 years, I had to learn criminal law and family law, and there's a big difference in both. And so, you can confuse a judge. There's so many things. I mean, yeah, there's just a big difference in both of them and how the courts are ran.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the three strikes policy a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the genesis of it, where did it come from, and who's it going to help?
So I did the time taken, time back bill for false allegations. And so now that has stopped false allegations, even in my case, my current case. And so now if my ex had done or is doing false allegations, then I'll get my time back. So she's not doing that anymore. So now what's happening is that she's interfering with my child custody. So because of that, she hijacked some time of mine about 5 months ago. And because of that, I was like, okay, this is not okay now. So now I got to figure out how to solve this one because district attorney's offices are not prosecuting for interference with child custody. In Texas, it's a state jail felony. I called the cops, just like everybody else did, had them show up. They asked my ex if she was going to release the kids. She said no. So there was nothing I could do. He said, you need to go to family court. And I was like, well, this is a criminal matter under 25.03. And he goes, I'm just telling you what we've been trained to do. So I was like, okay, you know what? I don't know the procedure. So I went to Dallas County and talked to the district attorney's office there because I know that they prosecute for it in Dallas County.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me the steps of it. So basically, when a cop comes out, you need to tell him that you want to report a criminal matter. And by law, they have to take the report. Now, you also tell him after he takes the report that you want it filed under 25.03 interference with child custody. Then they hand it to a detective in the youth division. That detective finds probable cause. Then they hand it over to the district attorney's office. Then the district attorney's office hands it over to the grand jury to indict. Then they send out a sheriff to go arrest or whatever. All these waste of resources, plus it's a state jail felony and they're not doing it. So I found out, how am I going to, well, I didn't find out. I was like, how can I make this work where it makes it more efficient, faster? And so I looked at the family code and found out that it's a state jail felony, but I could amend that state jail felony for two misdemeanors. So when the cop's out there, he can give them a $500 fine for the first time, $500 fine for the second time, and the third time becomes a state jail felony. Now, when I was talking to the district attorney's office, they said one of their excuses were that they don't know how many times the parent has done this, so they don't want to do a state jail felony if it was the parent's first time, but there's no record. So the three strikes policy takes that completely out of the game. There's no more excuse for them because there's two already, and it shows a history of it with the fines. Now they need to prosecute for it. Now, I hope that nobody gets a fine. I hope nobody goes to jail. I hope nobody gets a state jail felony. Hopefully, this is kind of like the belt threat when you tell a kid, hey, I'm going to spank you with this belt. Hopefully, they won't be doing the same thing that they were going to be doing before and hijacking and interfering with child custody. Hopefully, this is enough notice to them that this is coming. And it's not just coming to Texas, it's coming to all states. I have advocates in every state giving this three strikes policy to all their legislators. So it's coming to every state very fast.
So it really, just to summarize, it's really just a cleanup of the existing law, right? You didn't really introduce anything new here, at least at the state level, and you gave them a way to track it. It's really low key brilliant.
And the other thing is it cleans up the system because it stops wasting state resources. If the cop goes out there and it's a $500 fine, that fine goes out to the municipality. So you don't have to give it to another detective to find probable cause. You don't have to give it to the DA. You don't have to stop up their system with the grand jury or the sheriff. So it limits all that process. It gives them three chances to correct their behavior before it gets to that. And so that's what it stops doing because, when you get up to that level, even if it's one time, then you're still wasting all those resources. So it gives a way to correct it and it stops wasting state money and state resources.
Yeah, I mean, just the threat of having a $500 fine, I bet, is going to stop a lot of this from happening because, prior to this, there really were no consequences, right?
Correct. And like I said, I hope nobody gets the fine. I hope nobody goes to jail. Hopefully, now that they know that they prosecute for this, or they're going to prosecute for it, or you're going to get a fine, that there won't be doing it anymore. It will curve the behavior. And this is where a lot of the parental alienation starts, because if you can hijack the kid for 30 days or more, that's where the brainwashing, the child gives up, and everything else. But as long as you have that constant contact, you won't be having all these issues that these children are having from effects from this from the interference with child custody. That's why it's a state jail felony, because it's child abuse.
What has been the reaction from, different folks that have learned about this law? So the municipalities, are they in favor of this? Does this work
They
for
love it.
them? What about the state level?
Yeah, so everyone I spoke to after I explained that it saves resources,
Mm-hmm.
love it. Like at the state level, because they're always looking for ways to save more money.
Sure.
And right now, I've talked to the DA's office and the sheriff's office and the police force in a bunch of different cities, and they are telling me in big cities that they have to hire more officers on every first, third, and fifth weekend because this is a problem.
Mm.
It's a huge problem. And they like, we can't solve it because we leave it to the legislators to figure out what to do. But they didn't give us any tools to use when we go out there. All we can do is say it's a civil matter or make a report and then go through all those resources. This bill alone will solve a lot of the issues that they're having, and they loved it. So, and they said it's the only tool that they have when they go out to use for interference with child custody.
So what's the status of the bill now? Is it signed into law? Is it still in process? Where is it at?
So it's on my senator's desk right now. Because in Texas we haven't started session yet, and so it's already went to Ledge Council, which they have to look at it to make sure it fits with, the wording and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty good at this now that I've had enough revisions of different bills that I know that, what they want. And so
Sure.
if you look at it, I think I sent you a copy. When you give a senator or a House rep, hopefully we'll post it on this podcast, or I'm sorry, this interview. But if you look at it, it's very clear. It shows what the current law is, then it shows the strikeouts of what I wanted to change,
Mm-hmm.
and then it also shows what I've added that's underlined. When a state senator or a House rep looks at that, they're like, oh, here's what the change is. A lot of people make the mistake, let's just say a 50-50 shared parenting bill. When I've seen some of them that submit it, they submit the whole thing and they don't know what's changed. They
Sure.
don't know what change they made. They think the whole thing is a change and they don't want to do something like that because they think the whole thing's changed.
So what can people do to help you out to get this passed in Texas?
If they take it to their state senator or their House reps and say, hey, look, this is an amazing bill. It would have helped me while I was going through this. It would help my kids when they're going to go through this. It would have stopped the games. Um, and we want to save, our taxpayers' money for something else. We could put it on the roads or do something else. You don't need to be spending these resources on extra police for no reason.
So what's next for you, Robert? You've got two laws. You've got one law passed, one law in work, and you're out doing a lot of advocacy work and talking. What's next on the horizon for you?
Tomorrow I'm going to meet with some people in Washington. They're looking at both of these bills going federal because of them interfering with your constitutional rights. So we're going to have a Zoom call on that. But yeah, I mean, there's so much things going on. I was just at Jeff Younger's hearing in California. He ended up they tried to throw him in jail for a gag order and ended up not doing it because they couldn't do it. You have a First Amendment freedom of speech. So I'm in I'm everywhere. But I think this advocacy is so important. And if anybody wants to also do it where you're at, all you have to do is watch several of, a lot of your interviews have to do with this advocacy. And so NPO does an amazing job at putting the information out there. If people will just watch it, they could learn from it. And that learning curve, you just shortened it. If you watch several hours of your interviews, they could shorten that learning curve and that headache that they're having to go through and figure out what this is and how to change it.
Yeah, certainly no need to reinvent the wheel. We've had lots
No.
of folks on like yourself and lots of great work going on across the country. And we've had big successes across the country getting, states to pass shared parenting laws. And so it's not an impossible task, even though sometimes it may feel that way. So, Robert, where can people find you online if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, most of the time, you can just go to my Facebook, click follow. You could search Robert Garza, Texas, or Robert Garza SB 718, and it'll probably pull me up. But just hit follow, and you'll get updated on everything I'm doing and how things are going. Oh, there is a book coming out. Well, not coming out, about to be written. And so I'm going to start writing some of this stuff down where people could, pieces of gold that they could get and not have to go through what they're going through in family court and how to get out of it faster and the pitfalls that and the rabbit trails that I chased that you won't have to do it. So.
Well, that's fantastic. And yeah, we'll definitely have you on again when that comes out. We look forward to it. Anything else you want to talk about before we hang up for the night?
No, everything's been good. I hope everybody, like I said, joins and watches all of the NPO videos because your learning curve will be shortened. And just whatever you're going through, just turn your pain into purpose and and you'll get through this. I got through it. I didn't believe I was going to be in it for 15 years and still going strong. But you know, you are going to go through this, and it does feel like you're grieving the loss of a living child when you have that child taken away. And so just know that you have to be strong for them, and you have to change the laws in your state so this doesn't happen to any more children or parents.
Absolutely. Well, Robert, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully we'll have you back on here soon and talk about changes at the federal level, because that would be amazing to get these really moved up to the federal level. That would certainly change a lot of lives across the country. So keep up the good work, and we'll look forward to having you on again.
Thank you.